Hi, everybody. Welcome to another ZBrush Central Image Breakdown. So thank you for joining us today on this Tuesday. We've got another great stream lined up for you. Our guest here is Wanda. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
You got a beautiful piece that he's going to be breaking down for us. And then, Wanda's a great collectibles artist. So he's
Thank
going to
you.
share his background so you all know too what he's done, and then we'll be
Mhm.
breaking down the piece. So again, thanks for joining us, Wanda. It's exciting
Thank
to
you.
have.
Thank you so much. A
Yeah,
pleasure.
absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So as usual, we'll be monitoring the questions in the chat. I will, where I can, throw questions at Wanda as we go along here. So again, please feel free to throw in any questions that you might have within the chat window, and we'll do our best to get as many as we can to Wanda as we're going through the stream. And I'll hand it over to you now, Wanda, and let you take it away.
Okay, great. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Wanda. I'm a 3D character artist from Indonesia. I currently work as a lead character artist in Prime Studio, Japan. I work remotely from Indonesia. And yeah, I learned 3D when I started. This is my art station. I learned 3D when in the middle school, I think. Back then, it's self-taught, so I learned by myself. I learned 3D Max back then, and then suddenly I find ZBrush. Back then, I think it's ZBrush 3.1, and back then I think the ZBrush is just only for detailing, not like nowadays. Nowadays we can create a full character in ZBrush, but back then it's just for detailing. So I have a 3D Max background, and then as you can see in the portfolio here, there's a couple of work from the old time. This is the work when I think in the college. I working this for online competition. I really like entering online competition, and then yeah, this is also competition. And then later on, I start my own YouTube channel. It's a time lapse video mostly. You can check. It's Theoxic 3D. You can check in YouTube, and most of them is 3D time lapse. Like for example, here I have a time lapse here. So yeah, it fast forward, and then later on after this is a college stuff, and then the first time I got a real job, is working on this one. It is Dante for company named Kineticat. It's a Singaporean based statue company, and then this is my first statue. I think spend a lot of time to doing this since this is actually four in one statue, so there's four like this. And then after I created this, I decided to get a job in the video game industry. That's in Malaysia. I worked there for about 1 year, and then I start focusing in collectible industry. I try to get another client like McFarlane, XM, Gantaku, Kids Logic, and then later on, I finally create this piece. This is actually originally a fan art that I made, and then someone in Prime One Studio noticed me and then asking me if I'm okay to create this as a statue, and then I said yes, and then yeah, since this time I working with Prime One until now. And as you can see here, mostly I'm doing a character for Capcom. It is Capcom. Is it also another Dante, and then some of the Batman, and then Resident Evil, Senseiya, and many more. And nowadays I'm focusing on more on the anime style. So yeah. So today I want to show you about my workflow, how I create a character. I think you already seen this a couple months ago. Is this a fan art actually? I created when the character launched. The character is from a game named Genshin Impact, if you know that. It's a gacha game and it's pretty popular. So when the first time I see this character, I believe this is gonna be popular. So that's why I picked this concept. So yeah, today I'm going to explain the workflow. Let's start with the concept. I think like how I get this concept. So as I explained before, it's from a video game. So it's I'm hoping this will be popular, and then so this my plan is to create a character that not 100% same as the game, since the game itself is anime, right? The anime style. I'll show you. This is some of the concept. The game is originally like this. No, I mean, the game is this, but there's a character art. The 2D character art is anime style. So my plan actually to change it to a semi-realistic one, and then actually I thought like maybe I need to try to make something more realistic, but on a second thought, since this game is more popular in the Asian, so I try to create like a bit semi-realistic one. So in the end, I get this type of style. Actually, before this, I already create another one. So it is in the from the same game, and it is this one. So my plan was to create like another statue like artwork to have a similar like usually there's when there is a statue there's a called a line of statue, so there's a one set of statue. So my plan is something like that. So as you can see here, and then there is this one. So my plan is to create these two into like one line of a collectible statue. But
You're
actually,
gonna
I
you're gonna
sorry,
print your goal is to print these eventually.
maybe I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
sure yet. Maybe I do plan have to have a plan to print this one, but probably need to simplify this a bit. Maybe I remove these. What is this? This
The
thing, this
snowflake.
part thing here. I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's gonna be too big. Actually, this one actually is printable also, but I think need to adjust it a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
since right now the support is just only from this leg, right? So
Yeah.
it's gonna be leaning problem.
Right. That's a good point out too for people that are watching
Hmm.
this that maybe have never done a collectible. That's
Hmm.
important to what he's bringing up right now. The fact that the only part of her whole body that's supported on the base is from the foot. And then you got
Hmm.
obviously the floating parts too going around her. Would have to
Hmm.
come up with
Oh
something.
yeah, this one. This
Yeah.
one probably, if I want to print this one, yeah, the main problem probably going to be this one.
If you did want to
This.
print it, what would you do? What would you do? I have an
Uh,
idea what I would do, but what would you do?
Oh yeah, this one actually, if I print this one, I actually gonna need to create something like this, like to connect all these
Yeah.
dots,
Right.
and then maybe connect it. They have something like stand, clear made of clear
Yeah.
acrylic or something,
Right.
maybe something like that. Or I can connect this to this
To the
one,
cape. Yeah.
to the
To her clothing.
sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe something like that. All
Yeah.
right,
That's
so.
great insight because there's
Mhm.
people watching might have never done anything like this before. So thank you.
Okay. So let's continue. Oh yeah, my plan is this to create the statue like concept.
Right.
So okay. Next is, yeah. So the main point of this project I try to learn how to create a composition, right, for the statue. As you can see here, usually for 3D art, you just you need to focus on all angle, right? But sometimes there's more like illustration. You just focus on one angle. What I like to work with a statue company is actually you need to make all angle looks good, right? So yeah, that was my initial plan for this project. And then yeah, also I don't really have concept at first for this pose. So since originally the pose on the character art is like this, I plan to make something different. So I tried a couple of different poses before. Usually
Mhm.
for me, I create like something like this. It is like a extremely rough pose, right? It's just to define how the character will look like later on. But this is just the first one, the first rough pose. So later on, I will improve. I think I need to move on the T pose first. I think like this.
I noticed you have your perspective camera on, and as a collectible maker, what's your focal
Oh,
length
this
at right
one?
now? Yeah. So
I
what do you
think
have
it's
it at?
85.
You have it at
Yes.
85.
I don't really usually use perspective. I usually turn that thing off
Uh-huh.
because I don't know. Sometimes when there is a huge object like this, sometimes the perspective is will be a little bit distort, right? So the way how to fix it, usually I put the bigger number like 120 like this, so the perspective will be fine. But yeah, I don't really use perspective actually. I know it's weird.
No, no.
So,
Well, that's why I was asking, because as a collectible
mhm,
or 3D printing, perspective is adding distortion to it. That's not going to be in the physical item when it's made. So
yeah. I think it's doesn't really matter for this perspective, but
yeah,
to make the same size, I mean to adjust the size, like to create this thing to make the same height as this one. So usually we turn off the perspective so to see the actual height of it, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
They're beautiful pieces. They're absolutely
Thank you.
gorgeous. The movement you have in all of them too is carrying the eye through really well too. So just fabulous, fantastic.
Thank you. Okay, so
Um,
yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Well, there's a question coming through asking to explain more about why would adding perspective mess up the print.
Oh,
Um,
actually, it's not mess up the
yeah,
print, but it's just my personal preference. I don't really use perspective until I finish a certain. I mean, when I finish like this pose, right, and then maybe I turn on just to check how it looks in perspective. But sometimes I don't know when the object is a bit far from the center point. Sometimes it look a bit distorted, so I rather turn that thing off. But actually, it's fine. It's completely fine if you have your perspective on something like that. Mhm.
yeah. Like you said, it's not really messing up the print. It's more a camera's got like a fisheye-ness to it and things like that,
Yeah,
right? And our
yeah.
eye that we use only has a certain type of millimeter lens
Mhm.
to it per se. So if you're doing something, if you guys are going to want a 3D print, you got to think of that kind of stuff. If you put a really extreme camera on, it might look good in a 3D program, but then when you go to print it out, it'll look a little different. So that's why he's talking about not having the perspective on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think I'll start with the T-pose first. So every time I create a statue, I need to create the T-pose first, right? Some people prefer like using the Z-sphere, I think, to create
Yeah.
the what is called the shapes of the body first. But for me, I personally prefer to use space body This one actually I created a couple of years ago. It already have a topology on it. So whenever I create a character, I use this. I also have one with the male character as well. And the point is, when I work in the collectible industry, sometimes we have like a feedback from the licensor, right? So if I create something using like Dynamesh, I mean it is actually fine using Dynamesh, but in my work, if I use Dynamesh, for example, if the leg is like this, if and then the client asks to change the pose, it will be a lot of problem. I mean, if we can fix it from the Dynamesh one, but it will take more time compared if the character is already have this topology, you know. And that's the main reason to have to for me to use this base mesh. And then the second reason is actually, of course, it's much faster compared if you create it using, Z-Sphere, create just to restart your progress, something like that. And then, yeah, especially this topology is more important in the hand area, of course. Usually, when we need to pose the hand, the finger, sometime if we dynamesh it, it will be stick to each other. But in this topology, when, for example, if the finger is touching like this, we can still select one by one each of the finger, something like that. So my first my first point is, when I work on the character, I try to focus on the proportion first. For example, in this one, since it's a little stylish character, not realistic one, I create the leg is a bit longer than the actual one. And then I think the face is more stylized is the face. I create the eyes a little bigger and then the nose. Try to make her as cute as possible. Also, I need to put in mind about my previous character as well. So as you can see, I tried to make this one look a bit older compared to the last one. So, and also I think this one more, I want to add more Japanese feel on it, since the character concept is actually a Japanese concept. So I use some reference from Japanese face, something like that. And after I'm working with the head, as you can see here, I try to follow the topology that I already have in my base mesh. Oh yeah, a little bit of tips here to difference for a character between the race. I think you can see here, this one is feels a little bit less Asian than this character, right? So from what I learned before, the one that really makes difference is actually the one over here. This part here, the what is this called?
The brow,
Under the
the
yeah,
brow.
the
Yeah.
part under this one. Yeah.
Orbital bone, if we want to get bone and add an
Oh yeah, probably that one.
Yeah.
So since this one is less Asian, so the forehead part here is a bit more forward compared if you see the Asian one, right? So also there's a like this part over here, we can pull it more. Oh yeah, one thing, when I sculpt Asian face, I don't really care about the eyebrow first. So something like this. This is actually a little bit flat, right? If you compare to this one. So this one have a shadow over here. And for the Asian face is a little flat. And then after you've done with this sculpt, and then you can just add the eyebrow. Something
So
like
you
this.
introduced polypaint relatively early in your process for this?
Oh yes. For me, as you can see here,
Yeah.
for a certain, like the clothing, right? If the
Mhm.
clothing is sticking to the skin, like for example, this part over here, and then the legging, the sock here, I usually use the polypaint first because I will create that later when after I'm done with the pose.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So you're
Mhm.
using the painting as the guide
Mhm.
for where you're going to actually make the mesh when after you pose it. That's a great
Yes.
tip. It's a great tip.
So as you can see here, there's like just a little painting, and then on the next progress, it will be I build it in the actual mesh, something like that.
How long were would you say these pieces took you? How much time?
Hmm. I'm not really sure. I think this one about 30 hour, I think.
30 hours?
Yeah, probably around that time. I actually recorded some of the progress, but I don't have time to edit the videos for that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right, you're doing this on your spare. This is a personal project, so you're doing this on your
Yeah,
spare time
it's
too. So
on my spare time. Yeah.
yeah.
So after I'm done with the body proportion here, the next thing is I'm blocking out the clothing. So for the clothing, as you can see here, I usually create it in the very low res solution like this. I'm using topology brush. Oh, this one, topology brush. Skip. And then what I'm doing is on this character, and then sometimes I'm deleting the subdivision, and then I just create the topology brush. Sometimes I'm using the extract also, like for example this part over here. This one is extracted from the leg, right? But this is the final file. Let me check the I think this one. Whoops. See? Oh yeah, this one. Actually, before I create this stocking here, I'm masking this one out, and then I just extract. Wait, let me give a proper example. I put the subdivision level to a lower one, and then I mask the part that I want to use for clothing. Extract just and then accept. So we got this. And for collectible, usually we don't really use a shelf. That this thing have like a thickness like that, right?
Mhm.
So for collectible, usually we delete this inside. This inside we select this, and then we delete geometry, modify topology, and delete hidden. So after this leaves the two holes like this, we just close holes. Then we select this part here. Wait, let me double that. We after this we have these two closed holes, right?
Mhm.
And then I adjust the poly group. So this is different poly group now. And then I select that hole and I shrunk it down. So for collectible, usually we do this for the clothing. As you can see here in this model, This one is also have a closed hole on it. So when you're printing it, I think it will be easier for us to print this compared if we just have the holes on this part like here. So okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a
Okay,
great
so
example.
so for the clothing, I keep it in one layer at first. So as you can see, there's just a one layer of mesh. If we turn off the double, it will be hidden. So this is just for block out. So to see how this will look like this, right? So since this a kimono, so kimono have a lot of different layer, right? So I need to study the kimono first and how to apply it in this concept. So there's a things like obi and then something under the layer of that this middle part here, and then how there's a ribbon, the bow behind her back, something like this. And then after I satisfied with the shape of this, I believe moving to the next stage, like this I explained before. This one is actually from the Topo brush. So the same technique as before, or I think this one is zero measure. I think, yeah, I think zero
Yeah,
measure.
it looks like it
Mhm.
based upon the topology.
So I keep it still one layer, and then usually when I wanna see, sometimes I use the dynamic subdivision, and then they have the thickness, this thickness thing, just to check. And then if I satisfied with it, I just press apply and done. And for this thickness, usually I add the crease polygroup. So we have a crease over here. If we smooth that thing, it will be leaves the sharp edges right there. So what I do usually after I create polygroup, I divide the character, I divide the mesh, and then I uncrease all. So it will be leaving something have a little smooth like this. I think I'll give you a better example. For example, this one here. Oh, no, not this one. This one like this. Usually this one is from Topology brush. I create a simple shape like this. And then after that, I sometimes using the Z modeler, and then I select this Q mesh polygon and then polygroup all. And then I just drag like this to adjust the thickness. Sometimes I'm using the dynamic subdivision one, but sometimes I'm using something like this also. The problem is this one, if you turn off the double-sided, by the way, double-sided is located in display, I think.
Yeah, down further. Display.
Yeah. Display property.
Yeah.
See over here. Since the Q mask usually I pull it in the down like this, not in the up. So usually the mesh is inverted. So as you can see here, the polygon is inverted. So we need to flip that. This one usually problem when we have morph target. So we need to delete morph target first, and then we flip. After I'm done with this, I usually polygroup, and then I use group by normal. We set it 45. Group by normal is for, as you can see here, this one and this one have a same polygroup, right? If I press group by normal, they will change into different polygroup. So by different polygroup, I can just crease polygroup and then subdivide, and then I can uncrease all, subdivide. So as you can see here, the edges will be like a little smooth like this. So that's how usually I do for the clothing. I think overall the technique is the same for this, since the clothing is a single fabric type. This one also it's original from the shapes like this. It's pretty simple shapes, and then I q mesh polygroup all, and then we got this thickness, and then we crease polygroup, and then just repeat the same process. Okay, so moving to the accessories here. The way how I create accessories is kind of the same actually, using the topo brush. I really like topo brush because it has a lot of control. Like if you working with 3D Max before, it's like polygon modeling tool, right? It's pretty great tool. So as you can see here, this is the accessories. For me to create these accessories, usually I just start with a plane like this, make polymesh 3D, and then I divide it a couple of times, and then I import the reference. Let me check the reference. This one right here is actually a prop for a cosplayer, I think. And then this one is, wait, this one, and then we put add to spotlight, something like this. And then after I'm done adjusting the size, turn on the symmetry, and to find the center of it, and then I brush it up. Yeah, I think something like this. It's just for easier to see the model. And then after this one, I delete lower, and then now we're using the topo brush again. Like for example, shapes like this, I create the middle line first, and then I just creating the topology. Yeah, the topo brush actually a little bit hard to get right. Like for example, like this one, if we have a 2 points here, we need to remove them and then add it one more. And when I okay with with these shapes, and then I just click on the mesh, and then split unmask point. Split unmask point is located in, where is it? Subtool, I think. Yeah, it is over here. Yeah, split unmask point. And we have these shapes right here. Usually after this, I just adjust it using the reference, using the move. Then I check this one, the dynamic with using dynamic subdivision level. As you can see, there's a missing crease here, so we need to add the crease using the Z modeler. We select the edges, and then we put the crease edge look complete, something like this. The same with this also. Yeah, and usually for the accessories, I don't want the hard edge like this. For the clothing, I want the part will be smooth, right? Right before. For the clothing, I want the edges will be smooth like this. But for the accessories, the hard surface one, I usually after having this mesh, I divide it and then I delete lower. It's just to increase the amount of the polygon. And then I select the edges over here. I use bevel to smoothen the edges. And then after I bevel that one, using the same process, crease polygroup, and then yeah, this one, something like this. So this is for creating stuff like this. I think for this one, I forgot I didn't put bevel on this. Oh yeah, maybe I put some in here. So I try to build the bigger one first, and then I start adding the smaller details like this golden part here. Technique is all the same. Some people using Dynamesh and then add the poly group and then ZBrush by poly group. But in this case, since the accessories is a one layer things like this is like one layer part, right? So I prefer using this technique, using the topology brush.
So for this whole asset, you use the topology brush to pretty much do.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because you're low polygon, it was easy for you to manipulate and move around as well because it's so low.
Yeah. Because sometimes I'm using Dynamesh first to create the hard surface, but I think it's work better if the object have a thickness of it on it. Like for example, if you building a mechanical robot design, I prefer to use Dynamesh for that. But in this case, I prefer to use the topology brush. So let's continue with the clothing. With this one. So after I'm done, oh yeah, let me explain this one. This one is the braid. I just using the normal braid brush that I found. And then for this bow on his back, it's also same technique. I think this one is from the cube, IMM cube. You know this cube here. And then I just create this one. Create something like this, split, unmask, and then I here. So I add a polygroup on this side, also on the other side as well, and then I create polygroup and then subdivide it. So we have shape like this, similar to this. As for this part right here, what I do is I just duplicate this one, rotate it, I prefer to split this part here and then group. No, not group by normal. I just need to remove this thing. Polygroup this one and delete that one. And I add another layer using Z modeler. Don't forget to flip that one. Flip. We can select this one and then smooth the mask. Yeah, so working with low poly is giving a lot of control on the model. This one, increase.
Yeah, give you some quick adjustments.
Yeah.
And then he was using the control key with the gizmo to duplicate for those that.
How he did that. I'm using for duplicate. Let me try once more. For this one, I will merge since it's the same object. I'll merge down. Always okay. And then as you can see here, after I'm adjusting this part right here, I'll polygroup all. I mean, I polygroup, auto group. I press Alt A. And then I select this one using the Gizmo 3D. I just drag using Control and Alt. So like this. And then I rotate it 180 degree. Like this. It's all. And then just add some subdivision level. Like this.
So as far as for printing, usually for the stuff you're doing for Prime 1, do you fill in that bow part there, or are you just trying to make sure you're your tolerance?
For printing, this bow right here, yeah, usually we need to fill the one that inside.
Yeah, so you fill in that
yeah.
gap. It's kind of like what you did with the leg.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm doing to fill this gap right here, usually I just group by normal again to select this inside part. Like this. Once this inside part is selected, I'm auto group. I'm grouping all of once using Control W. And then I put the subdivision a little bit higher and then mask that one out. And then I unhide all and then smooth that mask. After I smooth this mask, I invert the mask, and then on the deformation, I inflate that one. Inflate. Something like this. Probably I need to put a little bit more inside like this. And I inflate. You can see it's closed the gap now. I just smooth it a little bit. Something like this. The quick fix is using the inflate brush.
Yeah, you just didn't get that inner part.
Yeah.
Quick fix.
So, so adding this using dam standard to create like, the bow have the folds. Or something like this.
And that's a good example of keeping them kind of 3 separate meshes. What you just did there too is nice for people to understand. By keeping that 3 separate meshes, he could do that hiding still of portions of the bow.
Yeah, so also keeping everything in a separated part is actually pretty important, because if we want to adjust another one, for example, in here, we have a multiple type of bow, right? So if we have the part is split, we can just duplicate the other one and then just make a few more adjustments, something like that. It's easier to edit. Okay, so for this part right here, I think it's the same technique. Yeah, I think this one from what's called the cylinder, and then let me show you. I think this one is, wait, where is it? Cylinder. Something like this. Split unmask. Oh, it's partially hidden. Sorry. Split unmask. Like this, I just select this part, the circle part, and then the hidden. I insert multiple edge loop. Oh wait, I think I'm using like this. After I'm done with this, selecting and then removing all the other part, I manually select this using mask. Then I pull it like this. So, and then I remove the excess part. Done. So yeah, to create it like this, so I usually using the primitive object, and then after this, I just same process q mask fit like this, and then add for more subdivision level using insert multiple edge loop. Yeah, something like this. And if we smooth that thing, it will be like this. So what I'm doing is just crease all and then subdivide a couple times, uncrease all, and to create this smooth effect like this. Okay, so after I'm done with the T-pose, I don't really put too much attention on T-pose. I don't want to finish one character on the T-pose. Like usually for video game, you need to finish the T-pose like 100%, since it's video game, of course. Like you need to rigging, and then texturing a lot of stuff. But for collectible, for statue, usually for the T-pose, I just work on the T-pose like 80% or maybe less. And then after that, so as you can see here, I leave so many parts just as a poly painted here.
Mm-hmm.
So after I'm done with the T-pose, like 80%, 70%, I start to doing this task pose, I call it, the to check how the composition of the pose character pose to the base. I usually also do a black block out for the base, because for collectible you need to see the balance, especially for dynamic pose character. We put a lot of attention on the base also. This is the first progress, and then later on, I think, whoa, that's creepy.
She's missing her body.
Wait, where is it? Yeah, I think this is the second one. As you can see, the block out for the base is pretty rough here. So this one is, I already add a few clothing folds here. Oh yeah, this one actually have a layer. I mean, shell have a shell like this. Actually, if you work in the statue, you need to, combine it, as I explained before on the legging area. So yeah, something like this. And then this is, as you can see, the first progress here, and then the second one like this is actually pretty different. It's because I keep trying to balance the character and finding what the best pose for this character. As you can see in the final one, she'll be more tilted on this direction right here. So yeah, my process is, it's keep changing. So as you can see here, I already added this braid hair like this. Since before is just really rough like this, so this one I cleaned that thing up. Oh yeah, about the hair. Usually when I working on the T-pose, I only work on the front part and this back part right here. So if the character has a long hair, I don't really work on the long hair first, because when we add pose later, we will change that long hair part. So for me to create the hair, I have a different technique. Some people using brush that already have topology for the hairline. But in my cases here, I'm using noise maker. So it's located in here, surface, and we have noise over here. So I create a custom brush with UV. UV is like a texturing coordinate. So if you check here, let me give you example. I actually have a video in YouTube also about this one. So what I do is basically like this. So let me remove the hair first. So we have this character right here first, right? And then what I'm doing is I insert the subtool and then just put some random tools. And then where is it? So like this, and I put it close to her head. This is just for a dummy object. So I usually reconstruct just to put a low resolution. And then what I'm doing from this sphere is I'm using the UV master. I unwrap it. As you can see, if we check the UV, we press flatten here, we can see the UV, but this UV doesn't matter. As long as the object have UV on it, this brush will work great. So with this subtool selected, this is already have a texture. Let me show the texture. As you can see here, it already have UV, right? So I'm using this brush, and then I create a line over here. You can turn off the texture. So from this hairbrush, I split the unmasked point again. We can hide the sphere that have UV already on it. So we select this one. And then what I'm doing is using the surface, the noise maker. So I open up my noise. It's actually, wait. The noise is like this. So I have alpha like this. This is to define the hairline. So with this alpha, I actually can adjust the how many hairline that I needed for this hair model. For example, if I increase the alpha size, there will be a fewer hairline. But if I reduce the alpha size, it will create more density on the hairline. So what I'm doing after I put the noise, what is called the
Surface noise.
surface noise, yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I divide it a couple of times, probably subdivision 5, it's pretty enough. And then I just press apply to mesh. Oh, it seems we need one more. So there's subdivision 6, and then press apply mesh. So this one, we already have the hairline. If you see the intersection, there's a hairline. But the good thing about this brush, if whenever we need to fix this, like for example, if we need more hairline or reduce the hairline, we can just put to the lower subdivision and then delete the higher.
Can you show the UVs of the hair, the actual brush, what you did for the UVs, so they can get an idea with that too?
Oh, for the UVs for the hair, wait, I think I have it. Let me check.
You can rip it off the brush if you want. I can show you how to rip it out of the brush.
Sure. Wait.
If you can't find it.
Let me try to find it. I think I have this one.
Yeah, this is a really great technique. This is a great idea.
This one. Yeah. This is basically the brush. So it have a 3 part over here. So this one is already have UV, right? So I'll show you the UV. We press flatten. So this is the UV. So this 3 part this is the tip part, the hair tip, and then this is the middle hair, and then this is the root of the hair. So
yeah, and then the purple part on the top are your caps on the top and the bottom.
Oh yeah, right? This one, yeah. So the direction is the most important, I think, since my alpha is, I create it vertically. So this hair need to be followed that alpha. So as you can see here, when I turn on the noise, this hair is following that alpha line that I created before. So unflatten. I actually create a couple, like this one is three hair, and then this just a double, and then a single hair for detailing, and then this one is flat, usually for the front hair with a cut on it. So after let me show the single hair to make it easier. So after I create this one, I think I created using just normal the box, and then extrude, and then I make it into 3 part using the poly group. And then what I'm doing is in the brush. Oh, and then create, and then create insert mesh. And I press new. As you can see, this is create a new brush. And then I turn on the stroke, and then curve. I turn on the curve mode. As you can see now, the brush is create the curve. But the problem is there's the holes. This need to be connected. How to connect is we use the modifier on the brush palette, and then there is a 3-part, weld part, and stretch. I turn this 3 on, and then I increase the curve rest a little, maybe something around 12 like this. And then when I click on the stroke, it will be all connected. So as you can see here, there's a bending like this. I usually smooth that one. I select this curve line here, and then press shift. Wait. Oh, didn't work. So let's me create once more. Yeah, something like this. As you can see, this one is already have noise also, so it's easy to adjust. So for the braid part, actually this one is I didn't make the braid UV brush. This one I think I got it online for the braid brush. So what I'm doing here is actually the same technique, but after I satisfied with the braid shapes here, what I'm doing is work on clone, and then I unwrap it. So let me turn off the noise, and then flatten. And then you see the UV is diagonally, right? So what we need to do is creating to rotate this vertically, same as the hairbrush before. So after it's all vertical, we just unflatten, and then copy that UV to the original mesh. We paste that, and then if we use the same noise, it should be giving you the same effect like this. Of course, sometimes there's a like artifact like this, but what I'm doing is apply to the mesh. This one probably need a couple of more subdivision. So there's a 7 million here. Apply to mesh. And then what I'm doing for this UV seam, I just smooth that one out, and then just put another line manually using dam standard or slash. Something like this. So for the hair, after I finish, wait. Let me check. Where is it? This one. After I finish with the hair, I add another smaller hair like this. Usually using the smaller hair strand that I showed you before. This is just for additional detailing to break up the straight line. So as you can see here, if we remove that smaller hair, it will be look too even, I guess. And then that's why I create the smaller hair. And this smaller hair is actually didn't work in the 3D print thing, right? So what you need to do to make it 3D printable is you need to move it to the closer of the main hair, something like this. So all the small hair need to be attached to the main hair. Sometimes there's a hole in between the hair. Wait, let me something like this. What I'm doing usually, I using the back face mask. I think it's located in the brush palette.
Auto masking. Yeah, brush auto
Yeah,
mask.
auto masking this one, and then I use back face mask. As you can see, there's a hole in here, a little bit not visible, but there's actually a hole in here. What I'm doing, I'm using the move topological and then just push that thing to close the hole, something like this. Yeah, this is for the hair. So next we're moving to
Yeah, so you put the large portions of
Mhm.
the hair after the pose for you too.
Yeah. So the more, I mean, the longer hair like this, usually it will be changed a lot during the posing, right? So I prefer to add it after I'm done with the pose.
Hmm.
So after I'm doing the, yeah. Oops. Wait, this is still creepy. This one. So yeah, after I'm done with the pose, then I working with the base now. So working with the base is just a normal, like using the part like this. Created using Dynamesh, I think. So to block out the shapes right here. So what I'm doing to add this texture is I'm using the noise maker again. I use Lightbox noise maker here. Wait, let me show you example in super shapes like this. So as you can see, I'm trying to create that this part right here, right?
Yeah.
So I start with the box, and then sometime I Dynamesh it, and then using the Z modeler right there. So to create this curve like this, I'm using the transpose line. We turn on the symmetry, and then what I did is press Alt and then press this red circle here, and then I move it up like this. So that one how to create the curve. But sometimes if we don't like it, it just use the move brush. I think I need to turn on the Z also, something like this. Something like this. We need to turn off the perspective mode. So we reduce the thickness. After we're done with this, I usually add some damage on it. I'm using clay tubes. Then I just put a random damage on the edges usually.
Yeah, I like using the mallet brushes too for this.
Oh.
That's another oldie but goodie too that you all might want to look into. There's a
Wait,
couple.
where is mallet? Is it over here?
It is
Oh,
in Lightbox
oh, in the light box.
and
Okay,
in the brush.
I'll check it that one later.
Yeah, there's
So,
a couple.
mhm.
It's an old one.
Okay, so I basically I like using the clay tubes for detailing like this. I like using clay tubes, and then sometimes I'm using the trim dynamic to just
Mhm.
to create this kind of effect. And then when I'm done with this, I'm gonna mesh it once more, and then I add some subdivision level. Sometimes I add the topology like this using ZBrushMeasure, right? So you can see here, mesh is actually have topology. So what I did is after I divide it just once, and then I press freeze subdivision level here. And then what I did is I turn on ZBrushMeasure and just keep it default, and then ZBrushMeasure, something like this. And then sometimes I put a more subdivision level, and then I turn off the free subdivision level to back to the original shapes. And we unmask that. You can see the shapes is remain the same, but the topology is different now. Let me reconstruct it once more, like this. So after I finish with this base shapes, what I'm doing is just using this noisemaker and then select probably noise 15 will be great. This, and then just apply to mesh. Sometimes there's a feels like inflate like this. What I'm doing usually, wait, let me add some more subdivision. What I'm doing is usually mask by noise like this. And then after this, I just inflate it negative, something like this. So once I satisfied with this damage thing, what I'm doing is I'm loading some alpha. So I have a couple of alpha for this type of thing. Where is it? Plaster. Okay, so after we got the alpha, as you can see, the color of the alpha is white, right? So we need to change it, because if we add the alpha, for example, like this, I put the dot to drag rectangle. If we add the alpha, it will be creating this like this, right? It's not flat. We don't want that. So what I'm doing, I turn I go to the modify, and then it is in this mid value. I put usually like around 40 or 50, and then when I try it, as you can see, it's no longer something like inflate. Let me show you. With the mid value 0, the surface will be like this, but with the mid value of 50, it will be much more flatter. It's great in this case. So what I'm doing is just adding the alpha. And sometimes, since this feels a bit too noisy, what I'm doing is just adding trim dynamic some parts. And then I add the alpha once more, but with a lower intensity. Yeah, basically when I create a base, is something like this.
Very nice. A question came in about the eyelashes.
Mhm.
The details in your model are really amazing. The eyelashes are really thin. How do you handle this for the printing phase? So how do you print out the eyelashes?
Oh, okay. For the eyelash, actually, if we want to print this, we didn't use this type of eyelashes. So I actually have these eyelashes for the printing. This is something like this. A little bit disappointing, but yeah, if we want to print the eyelashes shapes will need to be something like this. So there's just a one line. The way I created is just using the curve snap like this, and I create just one line. If I want to adjust the thickness of each side, I go to the stroke and then curve modifier. I turn off the curve fall off, and I press size, and then I modify this curve, something like this. So when I brush it, it will be something like this. And then I split. So once we get the shapes right here, we can adjust it using the pinch brush. And then what I'm doing is I'm following the eye shapes. Something like this using, and for the printing, there's a tips for the character like this. She has the, what is called, this line over here, the
Her eyelid?
I forgot. The eyelid, yes. The
Yeah.
eyelid right here. A little bit tips. If you create the eyelashes a bigger like this, we need to show the eyelids more. So what I'm doing is, let me create another layer. I'm masking this one on the symmetry. Oh yeah, for the character like this, since a character like this have a already symmetry topology. So as you can see here, it's originally have symmetry topology, right? So what I'm doing when I poses the character, I'm using the use posable symmetry. It's located in
Transform.
whoops.
Transform.
Oh yeah, it's in transform.
Yeah.
See over here. So after I press that one, as you can see, the dots here is following using the topology of the model. So it's really good feature. I uses that a lot, especially when I add the pose on the character. So as you can see here, since the eyelid is covered by the eyelashes, what I'm doing is I pull this one out just a little. So this way, when it's printed, the character will be looks better, especially on a female character. Since we use these eyelids usually only on female character. So after that, you just modify using pinch like this and then subdivide. There is sometimes another type of eyelids that people using, like this one is pretty simple eyelids, right? Sometimes there's another one that a little bit complex. We added sharp like this. There's a like a fake eyelids. Wait, something like this. So if the printer is high quality printer, sometimes this one is will be printed as well. I think I have the example here. I think for this one. This one right here, I think the eye. Oh, this one is not really visible, but actually if you zoom this character, there's a like a shapes similar to this one. Yeah, so that's how to create the model for the eyelids.
Yeah, it definitely changes that look a little bit, right? Even though it's something small, those little changes
Yeah.
brings the character to life a little bit more.
Mhm. Exactly. So yeah, this
Very
is
nice. Thank
like
you.
the Mhm. Okay. So okay, after I'm done with the base like this. Oh yeah, for the base, please make sure it have a strong connection as we mentioned before. So for example, if the character like this, if you really want to print this, what I'm doing is I try to move this rock, maybe make a bigger one and then put it closer to target. I think using these shapes like this will give a better support for the character. Okay, next is creating this tree right here. I'm using the same technique as, I think this one is noise as well. Or is it? Wait. So what I'm doing here, creating this tree is just a normal tree created by, I'll give you example like this. I'm just using this curve. Oops. We adjust the size. Since the tree roots need to be bigger, we can adjust it like this. And a split unmask. And then we adjust the shapes of it. And just adds another branches. Once I'm done with the tree, and then what I'm doing is just dynamesh the tree. We clean up the mesh a little. And then I'm using the same technique as before. We subdivide, freeze subdivision level, and then zero measure, and then turn off this freeze subdivision level. After I'm done with this, I usually add some polygroup. I'm using the topology masking on the transpose, something like this, to select these branches over here. So after I'm done selecting the branches, just using the same technique to as the creating the braid, I work on clone using UV master, work on clone, unwrap, but this time I turn on this polygroup right here, and then I press unwrap and I flatten. I make sure everything in the vertical or diagonal, or horizontal, depending on what texture did you use. I will unflatten it. So I'm done. I subdivided a couple of times, and then the noise, I put the alpha of a wood, something like this. We increase the strength.
You want to switch it
Yeah,
to
something.
UV
Oh
mode.
yeah, this one UV. Yeah, I forgot. We turn on this UV right here. So you can see now we have the texture of the tree bark right here. So after we satisfied with this, we just press apply to mesh, and done. We just need to clean up probably the part like this, the one that connecting between the main branches and the smaller branches. I using the slash brush or the damn standard brush. Then for this part, I'm using the slash to just to create a big, like a difference compared to this one. Wait, let me show you. As you can see here, since the tree have the shapes like this, so I'm trying to follow using the reference that I have. Yeah, and then I add some tree holes on here, the hollow. I think something like this for the tree. And then for the flower right here, I just create a one flower. I think I have the files with. Let me check. CC flower. I like to keep the files in the separated files. So if you see here, I have this flower. The way I create it is just create one flower here. This is created by simple cube like this, and then I flatten that thing down and then just simplify it a couple of times, and then I duplicate, and then I rotate the flower, duplicate, and then I put the line in the middle like this, then I rotate it. I duplicate it once more, and I try to adjust the degree of the flower. No need to be exact this gap size, but since to make it looks more natural. So after I'm done with this, I merge this 5 petal. I merge it into like this, and then after that I added the stem. Where's the stem? This thing right here. After I'm done with this, I just merge visible. As you can see right now, it's merged, and then what I'm doing next is just creating insert mesh from these flower shapes. You press create insert mesh, new, and then what I'm doing is adding the flower here, like this. Oops, this one I think have texture on it. This. Yeah, I think that's for the flower. Next is the effect part right here. The way how I create the effect part is similar using the curve, but this time I'm not using the curve tube, since you know that this lightning effect is have a sharper edges right here, right? So what I'm doing, I create a custom brush. Let me load this. Load brush. This one is box. Shapes like a. It's similar to curved tube, but instead of tube, this one is box shaped. Make polymesh 3D, and then what I'm doing is just creating the line of the lightning here. I'll give you an example, something like this. You can adjust the tip, the size tip using this. Same process as before. Now I really like this. You know what is called when you move this thing around, the shapes will be different. Yeah, and then I split. As you can see, we have the basic shapes here. And then what I'm doing after this is group by normal, and then crease polygroup. As you can see, it is sharp on the edges now. And then what I'm doing next is adding another crease polygroup, edge look complete in the random place. And then next is just move the topology. As you can see, it's create a really nice sharpness, like here, like this. So after I'm satisfied with the main shapes right here, I just keep adding more. Since the lightning is kind of similar with the tree. Same process, group by normal, crease polygroup. Add few more crease. And then we pull to create a sharper edges like this. Using back face mask. Crease polygroup. Like this to create the lightning here.
Very nice. Very nice. A question came through about what you use to pose the character.
Oh yeah, I haven't explained that one. Sorry. So for posing the character, wait, where is it? For example, this one, right? Yeah, this one. So usually I hide all the clothing, except probably for something like this, right? I hide all the clothing. I only keep the eyes and the teeth and the hair like this, since we don't change it. And then what I'm doing is transpose master. I'm using transpose master, and then I press T-pose mesh. It creating a one big mesh that's ready to pose. Okay, so after I having this T-pose mesh, what I'm doing is I go back to the rough pose blocking that I did before. Like this, right? Wait.
Yep.
What I'm doing is I merge this character. I press merge visible. And then I go back to the T-pose mesh. And then I append the merge rough pose that I did before. So what I'm doing is I try to match this one to this pose. So I'm using the transpose. Usually I start posing on the pelvic area and I adjust it like this. As you can see, it's really, really rough. So something like this, and then I select, for example, this leg right here. Masking using the mask topology, the transpose. For posing, I prefer to use this transpose line compared to the gizmo, because sometimes in the gizmo the result is it's different compared to this one. I don't know. I prefer using this transpose line more compared to the gizmo. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to match the thigh area. As you can see, there's a difference proportion on the model. So I'm probably gonna need to have the option. I increase the size of the leg also, or I keep it. Maybe this time I'll try to keep it first. keep the proportion. As you can see here, there's a lot happening when you're posing. There will be, the mesh will be weird like this, so we need to resculpt that one later. I usually just smooth that thing first. So for example, like this, if I'm happy with this shapes, what I'm doing is we back to the really rough pose, and then we delete that pose, and then we transpose it back. Transfer T-pose to subtool. We press that one. What they're doing is they transfer that T-pose to the high resolution mask. There's a lot of subtools, so the process will take a bit longer. So as you can see here, the character is already with a pose. So what I'm doing now is I fix the anatomy for the part that distorted like this. For example, in this area. For posing, I'm using quite a lot of anatomy reference. Sometimes I mostly use reference from Anatomy for Artists. I think they have a lot of cool reference to use. Like for example, how this knee bending. So
You're talking about the Elliot Goldfinger book, Anatomy for Artists. Is that what you're referring to?
I think, yeah.
It's black and white cover.
I don't know. I think it's, wait. Let me find. It is Anatomy for Sculpture. I think
there's
think
also
this one.
Oh,
This
yeah,
one.
that's
I
a different
think.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
That's
have
actually
really
that's actually using ZBrush to make the book.
Yeah, I know. It's really great reference, especially if you want to start to learn anatomy. They have the breakdown, like for example, this one. They explain how to simplify the shapes, but it still looks correct. Something like this.
Yeah, let me find a link for it. I put another good one in the chat as well.
Okay. So what I'm doing here is I try to find the reference and then fix this one using clay brush. As you can see, that the clay build up brush is have a shapes like a box like this, right? What I'm doing when I work with the anatomy, I put the focal shift of the clay build up brush to 0. So by putting that to 0, the result now will be a lot smoother. So it's really good to build up the muscle. So for the knee, it's using that play build up and move and then smooth. Just this is two. And then for this part right here, I usually use inflate. You need to check the silhouette also. I press V since the secondary color is black, so it's easier to check the silhouette. You also can use this silhouette as well if you want, but me, I prefer using the secondary color. So
Kung Fu Furry had I think a question. Hold on, let me see. It's taking less time to resculpt on the model after posing it, or move to another software and do rigging and posing. And it depends. So question. So I think you're trying to ask, is it faster for you, Wanda, to just do what you did in Resculpt, or are you finding for some of your pieces you're going to have to go build a rig and pose and everything?
For me, I prefer you repose using the transpose brush, the same technique that I showed before.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I don't know the for rigging. At first, I have no idea how to rig, so I have no experience to rig, and I think it will be take much longer time maybe. But some people using like auto rig and then give it a pose. There's a website called Mixamo, I think. They have a
Mixamo is
lot
one of
of
them. Yeah.
animation, right? So if you, for example, if you want to create a statue of character that running, you can just grab the animation from there, and then you using that pose, and then import it back to ZBrush. I think some people using like that, but I never tried that one before. For me, I prefer using this transpose thing like this, because I can learn anatomy better. Since because if you use rig, when you bending a joint like this, like knee and then elbow like this, I'm not sure if you can get something like this. I'm not sure. I think you can, but it, yeah, back to probably it's gonna take more time compared to sculpting manually like this. So yeah, I prefer using this technique. So you can see here I'm working on the back of the knee, so smooth that one first, and then I just add some clay build up. I think that's the process for adding the pose. So once I'm done with the composition with all of the character, I add the poly paint. So for this one, for example, for this one here, right here, actually cheat a bit. So I found the reference for her clothing online. I found the model, the 3D model. There's someone uploaded online. So by using this, what I'm doing is I stamp the, like for example, for the sleeves right here. Once I'm done with the pose, so let me try it, show it. So the actual shape of the sleeve is like this. So what I'm doing is I using the morph target right here. So its function is storing the shapes of the model. So when I press it, if you change the shapes of this, and then we can press switch right here, it will turn to the first shapes that we store. So what I'm doing, first I store morph target, and then I'm masking this one out, and then using the transpose, I create a curve. I try to make this one straight like this. Then I load the texture. For example, like this. Like this, right? So I turning the opacity down a bit. What I'm doing is try to match these shapes with this image. like this. After I'm done, I'm just using the paintbrush to just paint on it. Then I clean up some stuff using the C and like this. I'm done. I just go to the morph target again, and then I press switch. So it's, the texture is shifted with the shapes also. Where is it? This one. I think that's about it.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I think you got through everything you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of information. You shared a lot of different techniques for sure. Definitely walked through her and showed how you got to this point where she's at now. And again, just a very beautiful piece. And the other one as well that you shared with us is really gorgeous too. So I wanted to thank you again for sharing everything with us. And for those that were joining us maybe a little bit later, this is recorded. So this will be available on our web pages. So it'll be available on our YouTube and our Twitch. So after this, you'll be able to go back and watch this and rewatch it and write even more notes that you want to. But before, obviously, if you are all enjoying this, I also wanted to share some other items for you. So we are doing a lot of streams on this channel. So even tomorrow, there's another stream that is a stream from our very own Ian Robinson. He's doing How It's Made. So it's part of our series, How It's Made, which in essence, he's rebuilding what you see here from beginning to end. So this stream's happening tomorrow. So it's another way to get in, see how you can use ZBrush. And in this case, he's literally rebuilding this tank from beginning to end. He'll show you his rendering techniques because this is actually rendered out of ZBrush. This toon shaded too. So he'll share that. And then of course we continue our series with like what we did today with Wandah, the ZBrush Central Image Breakdown. We have a lot of other ones. So the next one coming up is going to be actually a industry spotlight. We're going to have Andrew Swift from the medical world. So medical illustrators actually use ZBrush a ton to do like what you're seeing here in these images. So this is a great location for you to continually get reminded about streams. So I'll share this as well. So this is every Tuesday, we're doing special streams with people like Wandah, breaking down how they use ZBrush with either an image. And in this case, Andrew's going to be breaking down and showing us how he uses ZBrush to make medical illustrations. So it'll be another really interesting, great stream that you don't want to miss. So I just want to make sure you're all aware of those again. So again, tomorrow we have Ian's stream from beginning to end, breaking down this tank, including the rendering. And then we have Andrew Swift next Tuesday. And keep in mind to watch the times because they're all different. For those that didn't know, Wandah's in Indonesia right now. So it's like what, 12:30? It's like almost 1 in the morning.
Yeah. It's already tomorrow.
Yeah, it's already tomorrow for him. He's in the future. So thank you for staying up so late with us too and being a part of that.
Thank you so much.
So I want to highlight because there's times here, as you can see, and you can be reminded by email. And the email will be sent to you a day before, or 24 hours before, and 1 hour before the stream actually takes place, but based upon your time zone. So everything that we do is based upon our specific time zone. So I want to make sure you were all aware of that as well. So again, Wandah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Staying up late.
It's okay. Thank you so much for inviting me in this event.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And again, everyone who is here, go back and rewatch that. He shared so many tips and a lot of tricks on just that one piece. It was amazing. So thank you again. I encourage you all to come back and continue to watch some more. Again, I am Paul Gaboury with the ZBrush team, and you've been watching another episode of ZBrush Central Image Breakdown. And hopefully we see you in more streams to come. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.